This is a myth, I promise you. Let's talk about it. If this is your first time seeing me, my name is Alia Mohammed. I'm the co-founder of Open Igloo, and I share tips and info on renting in New York City, so be sure to give us a follow. This is a narrative that has been pushed to make renters feel like getting a rent-stabilized apartment is impossible, or it's something that's only reserved for older New Yorkers, or something that you have to inherit from a family member. That is just not true. These are the 3 things I want every single New Yorker to know about rent stabilization. Number 1, there are around 1 million rent-stabilized apartments in New York City. That's nearly half of all of the rental units in the city. So if you're apartment hunting right now, there is a very high likelihood that you've actually already toured a rent-stabilized apartment. You just don't know it because the broker or the landlord is not advertising that it's stabilized, it's not on the listing. And this is something that we want to change at Open Igloo. We want renters to prioritize trying to find a rent-stabilized apartment when they are apartment hunting, which is why we've tagged every single building on Open Igloo, letting you know if there are rent-stabilized units in it. This way you can filter your apartment search and just look for listings that are in those buildings. Number 2, rent stabilization is for everyone. There are no income restrictions. In 2009, a bunch of laws changed about rent stabilization. It's nearly impossible to deregulate a unit now, so when someone moves out of a rent-stabilized apartment, it stays stabilized at the same price that the previous tenant was paying. Rent stabilization is not affordable housing, so no matter how big your family is, where you want to live, what your income is, etc., you can rent a rent-stabilized apartment. Usually that's confused with the Affordable Housing Lottery, so the Affordable Housing Lottery does have income restrictions, and the apartments that you get in the lottery are rent-stabilized, but the Affordable Housing Lottery is a carve-out of the overall inventory of stabilized apartments. Number 3, the reason it's so important to try and get your hands on a rent-stabilized apartment is because the landlord can only increase the rent a certain amount every single year, and that amount is voted on by the Rent Guidelines Board every single year. The other thing that happens is that you are entitled to a renewal, meaning the landlord cannot ask you to leave the apartment. And this is why all the New Yorkers that have good deals on their apartments are the New Yorkers that don't move every single year. They stay in the apartment, they get their rent increased a few percentage points every single year, and they stay in their apartment for 10, 20, 30 years, and then over that period of time, their apartment looks like a really great deal. So I hope that convinces you to try and find a rent-stabilized apartment when you are apartment hunting next. So if you're on the move, be sure to browse listings on OpenIgloo.com.